Right now, roughly 50% of all business partnerships are, they're basically marching toward a total collapse, half of them. And if you were in the construction industry, those odds are actually, they're much worse. So, welcome to today's deep dive, tailored specifically for all of you construction business owners out there.
It's a staggering reality to confront, honestly, because, when you pour a new concrete foundation for a build, there's that moment right after the forms are stripped away where everything just looks absolutely perfect.
Oh, clean.
Right. It's solid, it's clean, and it looks like it could hold up a skyscraper. But you don't actually know how strong that foundation really is until it's under maximum load. Experiencing the stress of the structure, the harsh weather, and the constantly shifting soil beneath it.
Yeah, that is actually the perfect way to look at it. Today, we're examining a different kind of foundation, but one that is just as vulnerable to those invisible structural cracks, your business partnership. Our mission today is to explore the uncomfortable reality of why construction business partnerships blow up, and more importantly, how to bulletproof yours so, you don't become a cautionary tale. We have a massive stack of market intelligence in front of us, covering how partnerships fail, the mechanics of conflict resolution, and overarching scaling strategies.
Okay, let's unpack this because we really need to figure out why the construction industry specifically suffers from such a high failure rate.
Well, the why behind that failure rate really comes down to how these businesses are born. In construction, partnerships, they very rarely start in a boardroom with a team of lawyers drafting up a rock-solid corporate charter.
Right. It's usually the exact opposite.
Yeah, they usually start in a pickup truck or over a couple of beers after a long shift. It's your buddy, your brother, or a guy you've swung a hammer with for 5 years. You decide to team up because you deeply trust each other's work ethic in the field.
You've seen them grind. Exactly. But because you already have that existing personal relationship, you skip the most critical step, which is formally defining the actual business relationship.
You skip the blueprints, which is, it's incredibly ironic for a construction company. So I want you, the listener, to really think about this right now. Did you start your business with a buddy, a sibling, maybe a former coworker?
It happens all the time.
It really does. And if you did, and you skipped that awkward paperwork phase because you thought, we're family, we'll figure it out, the stakes are incredibly high, a bad partnership doesn't just cost you time and materials. It can cost you your entire livelihood, your reputation, and a relationship you actually care about.
Absolutely.
But do not panic. This deep dive is going to give you the exact blueprint to save your partnership before the pressure breaks it.
So we need to transition from that honeymoon phase of how these partnerships start directly into the daily grind that actually wears them down.
Yeah.
Because the erosion of a partnership is usually very slow, right up until it is suddenly very fast.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you. Let's get into the first major crack that forms in the daily grind, which is undefined roles. This is where both partners kind of naturally assume they are the boss.
Right.
But at the exact same time, neither of them actually wants to be stuck doing the administrative work in the office.
Oh, it is a classic trap. Everyone wants to be out in the field, making the big calls, walking the site, driving the trucks, but nobody wants to, process the payroll, track down the submittals, or reconcile the accounts.
Nobody wants to do the paperwork.
Exactly. And what happens practically is that decisions get made twice, or they just don't get made at all because everyone assumed, the other guy was handling it.
It's like having two different foremen on the exact same job site giving conflicting orders to the subs. It's total chaos. Imagine one foreman telling the plumbers to run the pipes through a specific wall, and then, 10 minutes later, the other foreman walks by and tells the drywallers to close up that exact same wall.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
It is a recipe for disaster, and it just bleeds money on rework.
What's fascinating here is that the fix is incredibly simple, but people avoid it because it feels too corporate for a small, gritty operation. But you have to put your role definitions in writing on day one. You have to clearly dictate who owns sales, who owns operations, and who owns finance. And here is the absolute key. There must be zero overlap.
Wait, zero overlap. I have to push back on that a little bit. What if it is a massive decision? If we are buying a $500,000 excavator, one guy just makes the call and the other partner has no say at all.
Well, that is a great distinction. Collaboration on major capital expenditures is absolutely necessary, but ultimate ownership of daily operational domains must belong to one person.
Okay, I see.
Right, so if you are the head of operations, the buck stops with you on the job site schedule. If your partner is the head of finance, you do not override them when they say, hey, the operating account cannot support a new hire this month. You stay in your lane.
Which naturally leads us into a deeper issue tied to the daily grind, and that's unequal effort. This is the scenario where one partner is grinding out 70 hours a week. They are the first truck on the site, the last one to leave, and they're sitting at their kitchen table doing estimates on Sundays.
Oh, yeah. The burnout is real.
It is. Meanwhile, the other partner is working maybe 35 hours, and the one working 70 hours doesn't say anything, but the resentment just builds silently for years.
It creates a massive pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And the fundamental mistake people make here is treating this like a communication issue. They think, oh, we just need to sit down and talk about our feelings.
Right, like couples therapy.
Exactly. But no, it is a structural issue.
Yeah.
You did not build a mechanism into your business model to handle varying levels of effort.
But wait, in a small two-man crew, how on earth do you actually afford to fix that structurally? You can't just pay the 70-hour guy a massive six-figure salary before taking profit distributions. Won't that just completely drain the operating account and leave the business cash poor?
Well, you don't necessarily drain the account with cash payouts right away, but you must define expected hours and tie compensation directly to contribution on the books. The structural solution is instituting a quarterly effort review. You sit down every 90 days and face reality. If partner A is consistently putting in double the hours and generating double the leads, you have to separate ownership equity from employee compensation.
Okay, break that down for me. How does that work?
So you might both own 50% of the company's equity, meaning you split the end of your profits down the middle. But your daily labor is different. If you are doing the job of a full-time project manager and a full-time estimator, your base compensation, whether it's drawn now or accrued as debt the company owes you, needs to reflect that market value before any profit distributions happen.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like you might own half the apartment building, but if you're also acting as the janitor, the property manager, and the leasing agent, you should be getting paid a salary for those specific jobs before the rental profits are split up.
That is a brilliant analogy. And while unequal effort creates that daily friction, we really have to look further down the road. Because even if you perfectly balance the daily sweat equity, the partnership can still explode if the owners are secretly driving toward two completely different financial realities.
Oh man, let's talk about the money, because financial secrecy is an absolute partnership killer. This happens when one partner is spending or drawing more money than agreed upon, and they are able to hide it in the shadows of really bad, disorganized bookkeeping.
Which is incredibly common.
Right. Maybe they're running personal expenses through the company card, or they're just pulling extra owner's draws without asking.
And in construction, where cash flow is incredibly dynamic, it is dangerously easy to hide. I mean, you have massive inflows from a huge draw on a commercial project, followed almost immediately by massive outflows for materials, subs, and payroll.
It's a roller coaster.
It is. It's very easy for $5,000 or $10,000 here and there to just get lost in the noise of a busy month.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. According to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, financial transparency is the single strongest predictor of partnership longevity. Not your profit margins, not your year-over-year revenue growth, transparency.
That data point is vital because transparency builds trust and secrecy destroys it instantly, even if the secrecy was accidental.
Yeah, just from bad habits.
Exactly. The fix here is non-negotiable. Both partners must see every single financial report on a monthly basis, no exceptions. Even if one partner is the designated field guy who genuinely hates looking at spreadsheets, they must sit down once a month and review the profit and loss statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement.
Yeah, you cannot be an owner and choose to be blind to the bank account, but let's assume the money is totally transparent. Everyone is happy with the cash flow today. That brings up the issue of the horizon misaligned exit timelines.
Well, this is a big one.
It's apparently the most expensive failure a partnership can face. You have one partner who wants to build a legacy empire, grow forever, and pass it down to their grandkids. The other partner, they want to build it up, sell it to a private equity firm in 5 years, and retire on a boat.
And they never discuss it until year 4, when the partner who wants to sell quietly brings in a business broker to do a valuation. And the partner who wants to stay feels completely betrayed.
But isn't it a bit premature to talk about selling the business during year 1? I mean, when you are literally just trying to survive, make payroll, and finish your first few jobs, it feels a bit like talking about a divorce while you're still on your honeymoon.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Failing to align on the end goal creates conflicting daily strategies right from the start. Let's look at the mechanism of how a business is valued.
Okay.
If I want to sell in 5 years, my entire focus is on maximizing short-term EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. I want our bottom line profit to look as fat as possible so a buyer pays a premium.
Makes sense.
Right, so to do that, I might hold off on buying a new fleet of F-150s. I might resist hiring a middle management layer of estimators.
Okay. Because every dollar spent on a new truck or a new salary cuts directly into the profit margin, which lowers the valuation of the company.
Precisely. But if your goal is to grow a legacy company forever, your strategy is aggressive reinvestment. You want to buy that new fleet to take on bigger jobs. You want to hire 3 new project managers so we can expand into a neighboring state.
Oh, yeah.
So in year 2, when you want to buy trucks and I want to hoard cash to pad the balance sheet, we're going to fight constantly and neither of us will understand why.
Because you're playing 2 completely different games on the exact same board. The fix is putting your exit timeline on paper in year 1 and revisiting it annually.
Right.
Just have to be honest about where the train is heading.
And managing those different strategies requires constant negotiation. Because even with transparent finances and aligned exit goals, partnerships require dozens of decisions every single week. They're incredibly vulnerable to gridlock.
Which is the trap of the classic 50-50 partnership split. On paper, it seems perfectly fair, right? We are equals. But when there is a fundamental disagreement, a 50-50 split without a tiebreaker mechanism just means every single argument turns into a standoff.
A 50-50 split without a contingency is mathematically the worst way to run a business. It requires absolute consensus to move forward on anything, which is honestly impossible.
Right.
The fix relies on the decision domains we discussed earlier. In your area, your call is final. In their area, their call is final. You don't need consensus, you just need to stay in your lane.
But what about company-wide issues? Like, do we sign a 5-year lease on a new warehouse? Do we acquire a smaller plumbing company? Those aren't just domain decisions.
For those global decisions, you must have an agreed-upon external advisor who serves as the tiebreaker.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this could be your CPA, a formal business coach, or an industry mentor you both respect. If you deadlock on leasing that warehouse, you take the arguments to the tiebreaker, and you both pre-agree to abide by their ruling no matter what.
That takes the ego completely out of the equation. But, taking ego out doesn't solve the real-life curveballs that hit us blindly.
I want to talk about personal life spillover. We are talking about out-of-bounds stuff, like a messy divorce, a sudden serious health issue, or personal financial ruin that suddenly bleeds over into the business.
This is where partnerships face a literal existential threat. If your partner goes through a bitter divorce, depending on the state laws, their ex-spouse might suddenly be entitled to 50% of your partner's assets.
Wow.
Which means they are entitled to 25% of your company. You could wake up one morning and find out you are now legally business partners with your buddy's angry ex.
Wait, how do you build a wall against that? How does a legal contract actually prevent an ex-spouse or a grieving family member from taking control of the shares?
You need a buy-sell agreement. It is an absolute necessity. It is a legally binding contract that stipulates exactly what happens to a partner's shares if a triggering event occurs. Like death, disability, divorce, or bankruptcy.
Okay, so it's a safety net. Right. The mechanism is that it forces the affected partner, or their estate, to sell their shares back to the company or to you at a predetermined valuation.
So the ex-spouse gets cash, not voting rights. But where does a small construction company suddenly find hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash to buy out those shares?
That is the most important part. The agreement needs to be funded by life insurance and has specific disability triggers. If your partner tragically passes away, the business doesn't have to drain its operating account to pay the family.
The insurance pays out.
Exactly. The life insurance policy pays out the cash value of the shares to the grieving family, ensuring they are financially secure. Simultaneously, the shares legally revert back to you. The business survives, and the family is taken care of.
That is heavy, but it completely illuminates why the mechanism is so vital. Okay, another curveball is a sudden divergence in growth and risk tolerance. One partner decides they want to leverage the company to take on massive commercial jobs, taking on big financial risk for a huge payoff. The other partner realizes they're completely comfortable doing high-end residential remodels with a solid, safe, predictable margin.
Risk tolerance is deeply psychological and, well, changes as people age or have kids. To fix this, you must hold an annual strategic alignment meeting. Both partners come to the table and present their 3-year vision for the company independently.
Like a check-in.
Yeah. And if the visions diverge dramatically, it has to be addressed immediately. You either compromise or you realize it might be time to trigger that buy-sell agreement amicably before it turns hostile.
Okay, so we've identified the massive cracks that can form in the foundation. Now let's move into overarching solutions. The tools and systems required to keep the business running smoothly and actually scaling up. First up is the master document, the partnership operating agreement.
Think of this as the prenup of your business. It is the single most important document you will ever sign. Our sources warn that without this, you are quite literally operating on hope.
And as anyone in construction knows, hope is not a strategy.
Never. Your operating agreement must comprehensively codify everything we've talked about. It must list the roles, the base compensation structure, the rules for owners' draws, who has decision authority in which domain, the dispute resolution protocol, the exit triggers, the buyout formulas, and of course those critical death and disability provisions.
It is the rule book for when things go wrong. And to keep things from going wrong in the first place, the sources outline a maintenance routine, the 90-day health check.
You cannot let resentments fester for a year. Every 90 days you leave the office, get a coffee or a beer, and honestly answer 3 questions together. What is working? What is not working? And what needs to change?
So what does this all mean in practice? Like, how do you actually sit down at a coffee shop and have these incredibly tough compensation talks without it turning into a screaming match? Because if I have to look at you and say, hey, I'm generating all the revenue, I deserve a bigger draw, that is going to cause a defensive reaction.
That's exactly why relying on Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report provides the financial benchmarking data that removes emotion from partnership compensation discussions.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense.
Right. When you use objective market data to see exactly what a director of operations should make versus what a director of sales should make based on actual hours and industry output, it stops being a personal attack. It just becomes a mathematical reality.
The data becomes the bad guy, not the partner. Now let's talk about scaling without the administrative burden, because a major reason partners fight, going all the way back to our first point about undefined roles, is because everyone is drowning in paperwork. Nobody wants to do the admin, so it falls through the cracks, leading to massive financial mistakes.
The sheer volume of documentation in a growing construction company is staggering. If you don't have systems, that paperwork becomes a point of deep, toxic resentment between the partner in the field and the partner in the office.
The sources actually point to AI platforms, specifically the Smart Business Automator platform, as a structural solution to this admin gridlock. Let's look at how that actually changes the daily workflow.
Yep.
Because it is not just about having a neat digital filing cabinet, it's about changing the friction points between owners.
Definitely. Take their smart document organization. It tags photos, plans, RFIs, or look at their smart search capability, which uses natural language processing.
Yeah, that's huge.
It is. Picture a Friday afternoon. The partner in the field is screaming on the phone because they need the revised HVAC specs for a downtown project immediately, and the subs are waiting. Historically, the partner in the office is frantically clicking through poorly named digital folders, getting stressed and angry.
But with natural language search, you don't need to know the exact file name or folder path. You just ask the system, hey, where are the revised HVAC specs for the downtown project? And it instantly pulls them from across all project data. The Friday afternoon fight never even happens.
Furthermore, they offer RFI assistance. The platform actually generates draft responses to requests for information using historical context and previous project documents. The office partner isn't spending 3 hours researching an answer, they're just reviewing and approving the AI's draft. It drastically speeds up communication and, frankly, lowers blood pressure.
And it also directly protects the company's profit margin. The platform does schedule risk detection and provides budget and variance insights.
Which is critical.
Yeah, it actively reviews your schedules to flag bottlenecks before they happen and identifies cost movements so leadership can make decisions earlier. Plus, it handles automated report generation and allows you to create custom AI workflows unique to how your specific crews operate.
And here is the connective tissue to our earlier discussion about financial transparency: API integration. The platform integrates seamlessly with your existing ERPs and accounting software.
Meaning all the data is flowing automatically without human data entry errors?
Yes. It allows your project managers to handle more jobs without drowning, but for the partners, it gives leadership total, unfiltered visibility. It effectively prevents the financial secrecy and the unequal effort we discussed earlier.
Because it's all right there.
Exactly. You can literally log in and see, at a glance, exactly where the budget stands, what RFIs are pending, and what everyone is producing.
The machine does the admin, so the partners can actually be leaders. It takes the operational pressure off the foundation, so the partners can focus on the horizon.
This raises an important question, and it's one we haven't touched on yet regarding the long-term horizon.
Okay, what's that?
If your partnership is currently running flawlessly and your business is highly profitable, consider this. What is your succession plan for the next generation? Are you consciously building a structured, systemized business that your kids or junior partners will actually want to inherit? Or are you just handing them a chaotic, stressful job that only works because you and your partner work 80 hours a week?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a phenomenal thought to leave you with. Building a business is one thing. Building a transferable asset is entirely different. Your business should never rely on hope. It should rely on a solid, visible blueprint. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this valuable, please make sure you subscribe to the Scaling Legends podcast on whatever platform you're using right now. Rate us, leave a review, and most importantly, share this deep dive with your colleagues, your team members, or maybe even your business partner if they need a gentle nudge. And to see how you can remove that heavy admin burden and scale up your operations safely, visit smartbusinessautomator.com to learn more. Remember, that concrete foundation might look perfect from the outside, but it is the structural integrity underneath that determines if you will stand the test of time. Take care, and we will catch you on the next one.